If I'm in a bad mood today, you can blame United. Today we're doing our Game Week 2 predictions. We're going to go through all 10 games and I'm going to give you my score lines and my general predictions for the games. Lads and lasses, let's get into it. On to Palace versus Manchester City, and with Palace they did lose 2-0 to Everton, but I do think they got into the right positions. They did make the right passes, but they're a little bit unlucky. I think they probably should have at least got a goal against Everton. These games against a City or a Big Six club, you have to be on top of your game, so that means ironing these little mistakes. Can I just say though, Haaland's buzz cut actually cracks me up. I don't even think it's a bad trim. Like, I actually think it might even be better than his man bun. But it's just like me when I shave. We just look years younger. It looks like he's like a up and comer, like a prospect. Well, I mean, that's if you don't take his 6 foot bloody massive build into account. City's attack wasn't actually too insane against Bournemouth, but a first win from Maresca should make the players want another one against Palace. I think Guehi in particular, I really liked him last week. He did look a threat in the air as well. He was in and around the box, and defensively I think he is their best defender right now. Obviously coming up at the end of last season, a lot of their defenders weren't really on form, so I think this season it's probably going to be Mark Guehi who actually steps up. I'm going to say 1-0 for City. I do think Palace will play even better than they did against Everton, and I think Sarge's system will be more in place, but it's just not going to be enough. Haaland will score to take the 3 points back to Manchester. On to Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest, and in game week 1 Forest were more attacking than last season, to be fair. I could already see that sort of Glasner's attacking, sort of entertaining style of play, and I would actually say they deserved a point against Leeds even though they lost 1-0. Igor Jesus performed really well in pre-season. We didn't see too much of him in game week 1. I mean, he did play, he didn't really do much on the pitch. But I see him being a threat against Liverpool. And one of the reasons for that is because Liverpool's defence is not in form. They conceded 2 goals to a team that we're looking at for relegation this season, or potentially in and around that relegation battle. I am going to big myself up. I did actually say Iraola, it's not going to take a couple weeks to sink in the football. It's going to take a while. It's not going to be an instant impact. A lot of people disagreed with me, but I'll big myself up on that, and I stand by that. And I think in this game, it's not going to be complete Liverpool yet. It's just, they're going to be taken step by step with Iraola. One thing that I think is concerning is, I feel like every game I watch Van Dijk and Alisson, they get more and more slow. It's like they're losing energy. I completely understand that they're getting older. Like, they get worse and worse every game. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because they're losing the core players around them that they were so good with. That is a bit worrying, and I think maybe Liverpool fans will agree with me. I'm not too sure. I'm actually going to go for a 1-0 upset to Forest. You heard it here first. On to Coventry versus Hull. I mean, what do you want from Coventry? I'm hearing a few people say Ipswich and Hull are going to stay up and Coventry are going to be the ones that go down just after game week 1. But they're playing the Premier League winners. Obviously, if you don't know, they got pummeled 3-0. I think this is a much more easier opponent where you can show the Premier League what you're made of. So I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I think both teams are going to very much want the 3 points. And so it's probably going to be a very entertaining game. I have to admit, Hull did look like a force. I hate even speaking about it because I'm still getting PTSD. They were literally like bullying our players, bullying them, and a lot of those players were energetic too. And even little stuff like interceptions or just their general marking, it was Premier League standard. So it's going to be interesting to see if they carry that on to this game against Coventry. I mean, it's not rocket science. I should probably say Hull to win. So yeah, I'm sorry, Coventry. I'm going to say 1-0 to the Tigers, but I think they're just going to be the ones that are able to finish their dinner. And I reckon Ajayi nets a header from a corner. I'm going to say that. I'm going to predict that. On to Bournemouth versus Everton, and I said 0-0 for Everton versus Palace, and I have to apologise because Everton were on it. I said there wasn't too much firepower, but specifically players like Tian or Barry, they were being able to finish their shots and they're being able to play composed. I think defensively they're amazing. Jordan Pickford, what a game he had against Palace. He was saving amazing shots. Bournemouth lost a hard matchup against City, obviously 2-1, and I think it's just because of the defence, honestly. I think the marking and the tracking wasn't great. I have to say, I'm not convinced about Petrovic. In my video of one player I think every Premier League club should sign, still watch that because it's not deadline day yet. And I said for Bournemouth to sign Noah Atabula, who was a goalkeeper. And I stand by that because I don't think Petrovic, especially in and around the box, maybe in corners, he doesn't have much of a presence. I don't see a leader there. And I think in a goalkeeper, you need to have someone, able to command their defenders. And I'm not seeing much of that from Petrovic. Maybe Bournemouth fans know more than me. Well, they probably do. So Bournemouth fans, tell me your opinions, but that's just what I feel like. Saying that, I do think Alex Scott will help Bournemouth dominate the middle of the park, but Everton's explosive moments will make up for it. I'm actually going to say 2-2. It's going to be a very balanced game, end-to-end stuff. I'm actually going to back Barry to score another goal. In fact, a brace this time out. On to Spurs versus Newcastle, and I actually said last week that Spurs need to prove the money that they were spending. They need to prove the worth of them splashing the cash. Kinski as well, I know he's young. I do believe he will grow into it and he will become much, much better. But he just wasn't good enough. With that Janelt shot, when someone shoots at you and you know that you can't catch it, you need to sort of push it left, right, or sort of over the top of the goal. But instead, he pushes it perfectly in front of him to a Brentford player's foot. And it shocked me because I think the muscle memory of a goalkeeper, you shouldn't probably be doing that. Newcastle didn't actually look as bad as I thought they would be against Liverpool. I did predict for it to be a 0-0 draw. So to be fair, I'll take that. I got a draw correct. And I think Yassel's playstyle as well is sinking in. Definitely was sinking in quicker than Iraola's. And I can imagine that Liverpool game actually instilled a bit of hope with some Newcastle fans. Even though it's early, I see a bit of fire from them. I think that's really exciting for Newcastle fans, seeing as it was literally non-existent in the latter stages of Eddie Howe's Newcastle. 1-1, going for another draw for Newcastle. The way I see it is De Zerbi is a very passionate manager. He is going to be annoyed. To be fair, while I'm recording this, he's probably screaming at the Tottenham players right now. So I think they're going to iron out some of this stuff. I think they're going to be much better than they were against Brentford, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the 3 points. On to Chelsea versus Brighton. And Brighton, can I just say, I've placed them very, very high in my predictions. By the way, go watch my Premier League predictions. It's an amazing video. But yeah, I've placed them quite high. And if they continue this sort of form, I think it would be a good shout from me. One player I was impressed with was Hinshelwood. I think he's always had a lot of hype, especially around Brighton fans. Whenever I watch Brighton, I don't really see him do too much. But this game in particular, I'm pretty sure he scored 2 goals. He was just insane. And for the first time, I was actually looking at him thinking, very soon he could actually be a top tier Premier League midfielder. Unfortunately, I cannot comment on Chelsea's Game Week 1 as it is being recorded before. So that's the same for Fulham, unfortunately. But seeing as Villa are better than Chelsea, I'm not sure there's much hope. I do think their defence will be much, much better than Villa's. I think it has to be. To be fair, I don't think you can put a worse performance than Villa's defence last time out. The Brighton attack is going to struggle a little bit more in this game, and I'm going to say 2-1 to Brighton. I think they are still going to get the win. With Jorginho Rutter scoring an absolute banger, I think he's going to pop off this season. On to Leeds versus Brentford, and Leeds played more reserved, I think, than Forest, but they ended up actually winning 1-0, and that's because they're extremely disciplined. Daniel Farke's tactics makes them such a good collective. You don't really see them having much of the ball, but when they do, they know exactly what to do with it. But can they beat Brentford, arguably one of the best collectives in the Premier League? That is the question. Last time out, they demolished Spurs. I sat there and I actually felt bad. I was like, don't score another goal, Brentford. You're embarrassing them. They're looking very sharp, and I think tactically, they are going to outsmart Leeds. I'm actually going to say 3-1 to Brentford, with them staying top of the league for another week. On to Sunderland versus Fulham, and Sunderland lost against newly promoted Ipswich. But to be fair, I didn't think they played too bad. I think Ipswich were just the better team. Saying that free kick from Angelo, I think his name is. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but that was insane. I'm pretty sure one of the commentators said the keeper was 6'9", but they need to bring more firepower if they want to win against Fulham. They can't rely on set pieces. I do think Sunderland's quality is much better than Fulham's. I think everyone would agree. Tactically, they are going to be better because Arbeloa is still probably trying to instill his vision onto the Fulham players. So I'm going to predict a bland 1-0 win for Sunderland. I don't really think there's going to be much that happens. I'm just predicting it for the fact that if it actually comes correct, I'm going to be a genius. I'm going to say Angelo to score another free kick to back to back to nab the 3 points. On to United versus Ipswich, and oh god, Please win, lads. The boys did not look up for it at all. It was like they were at the club the night before or something, like they were playing hangover. In the middle of the park, it was like they lost their heads, like, you know, Hull's interceptions and just tackles. It was easy stuff like scanning could avoid. They weren't energetic. They didn't look very fit. Some would say we're lucky to have another newly promoted side, but Ipswich did look decent. I think one player I really liked was Julio and Cecil. He's only 22. He seemed like a very tricky player. I'm excited to see more of him. I think when he's in and around that box, you don't really know what he's going to do. And 9 times out of 10, when he's making those tricky passes or doing those skill moves, they actually worked in his favour. I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going for another 2-1 prediction for United, and I hope this time I get it right. I just feel like we've had our wake-up call against Hull early in the season, and surely Michael Carrick isn't happy, and I think so we're going to iron out those little things, and we're going to come in with more and more energy this time out. I'm going to say Bruno to score a winning penalty. On to Aston Villa versus Arsenal, our last game of the game week predictions. Please subscribe if you enjoyed. I've always thought Havertz was overrated, but I think that is a talking point today, because his goal against Coventry and just, you know, his positioning, his general positioning in the game against Coventry was really impressive. His goal was very composed. It actually, as crazy as it sounds, it reminds me a little bit of Bergkamp. Plus, every time they sign a main man up top, whether it's Gyökeres or someone else, he's always the man Arteta picks. He has to be doing something right, so fair play to him, and I think he's going to be great against Aston Villa as well. They were dominant against Coventry, but remember, Villa is a different level. Obviously, they had a horrific game. They completely lost their heads. It was just constant defensive mistakes. If you're giving Brighton those consistent chances, they're going to score, but if you give Arsenal those consistent chances, they're going to demolish you. It genuinely looked more like a Sunday League match on Aston Villa's half, and so they need a big improvement. I'm sure Unai Emery isn't happy, but again, he knows how to adapt, so maybe we'll see him adapt to this particular game. Maybe they'll perform. Only time can really tell. I'm going to say Havertz to score along with Declan Rice to make it 2-0 for Arsenal, and Conte's going to be smiling on that substitute bench at full time. Cheers, lads and lasses, for watching. Make sure you subscribe, check out my Premier League predictions and my kit rankings. See you next week for Game Week 3.